I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Zambia for 2 years. I almost got thrown out of Peace Corps because I almost failed the language test. 3 months of training, you have to learn their local language. I just couldn't do it. I tried, I worked very hard. I almost failed the language test, and people were laughing at me. And I was like, no, 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 like I'm a slow learner, but I'll get it. And it took me, Peace Corps is 2 years and 3 months of service. I didn't feel settled in until the second year. You know, I didn't feel at home. I didn't feel connected. Like I didn't feel like I could, I didn't feel that I was in my sacred space. And then I started realizing, oh my gosh, the time is almost up. What is 2 years in Africa? 2 years in Africa is 2 months in the United States. The time was finishing, and what had I accomplished? I had done some HIV/AIDS projects. I'd helped deliver some babies at a local clinic. I had worked on an educational radio program that was broadcast in the remote areas so that children could learn. But what I had really done was made relationships with people that connected me. So there's the connectivity, such that I felt like it was a tragedy that I had to leave them. It just didn't feel right. It felt like, okay, now I can speak their language. And yes, I almost failed the language test, but I practiced every day. And now I can speak to them. And now I understand how to heat my bathwater on this fire. And now I understand that the food that's 5 days old that I threw out, rather than watching the kids go through the dumpster to eat it, it's better if I just go give it to them. And, you know, just all these little idiosyncratic things of living in the village. And then it was time to go. And it just didn't feel right. And then I got back to the US and I couldn't settle in right. And the extremism was very daunting for me. Just going from that village environment where people didn't have food, they didn't have water, they were struggling just to survive, and then going back to the States. After I went home, I just felt like I didn't feel like I could settle in. And then I got this invitation to go teach in a village in Nepal. And it was way up in the Himalayan mountains in Lower Mustang. And the post office was like an hour walk down one of these mountains from my little monastery where I lived. So I guess my mom and I feel like my mother and I spoke on the phone once or twice, but she had said, like, your sister's been writing you letters. I've been writing you, you never get the letters. But every time I went to the post office, there were letters from Zambia. These people in the village were writing me, asking me if I was coming back, and if I was coming back, if I could just come back forever, not with a time frame like Peace Corps, but could I please just come back and help them for the rest of their lives with all of their problems? And I'm like, oh, sure. And, I was 27 at the time. So I was like, well, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing with my life. So this sounds like something that could be really amazing, So the village, the people in the village actually sold 3 cows, and they put the money together and they sent it through Western Union for me to come to pay for my ticket to come back to come stay with them. So I look at it like the people started the project. The people began the project through their own initiative and their own incentive of selling these 3 cows and purchasing my air ticket, basically. So I came back and I I didn't really know where to start. I just knew that I was really, really, really happy to be back. And after a few days of being in the village again, a group of people, and it was like a bunch of men, and I think there was like 3 women. And they said to me, Heather, you've stayed with us for a very long time, but I don't think that you realize why all of us are living in poverty and we're suffering. And I said, no, 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 no. I understand you don't have food and you're always hungry. And I understand. And they said, no, you understand part of it. That's definitely part. But do you know why we don't have food? And I said, no, it was like I couldn't connect these dots. And they said, we don't have food because we don't have water. We don't have water because every year it doesn't rain consistently. We'll have our rainy season begins around the end of October. It goes into possibly March. Some years we have tons of rain. Other years it rains twice. It's inconsistent. On top of it, partially because of that, we don't have a reliable groundwater source. We don't have, we're sharing water with our cattle. We're sharing water with our goats. Have you not noticed? So that was like humility time. Like I was just sitting there trying not to cry because I felt so ashamed. I felt so ashamed. Like, how did I not know that? I didn't get that. I didn't really understand. I knew that we had no water well in our village. I knew that we had to go fetch from like this little river hole, that as it got farther and farther away from the last rainfall in March, the water hole got smaller and smaller and muddier. But I didn't connect the dots. I didn't get it. So then I was like, what do I do? How do I help you? And their first project was to make a dam. And we worked with a group from Marshall, it was like Marshall University, Marshall State. It's in West Virginia. And they were going to help make a dam. And that project, they weren't serious. It was an Engineers Without Borders chapter. It didn't seem like I think there was like 2 or 3 years that they were supposed to be fundraising, and they fundraised like $700. And a dam is probably more like $700,000 or something. It just and then it was like, okay, this isn't working out. And then it wasn't solving the essential issue of a dam would help with agriculture, and a dam would help with the cattle and the sheep and the goats and all of these like livestock animals that need water. But that doesn't solve the essential issue, which is that the human beings can't drink water from a dam. And you're actually making the problem worse. If you have a dam, that the possibility for contamination in the dam is most likely much greater than the bad water they're already drinking. A scientist explained that to me. So it's like, okay, now we're back at square one. This Engineers Without Borders chapter is not serious. The dam is not a good idea. What do we do? How did the water wells come up? Gail, how did the water wells come up?
That we started working with certain people from the engineering corporation that was in South Denver. And they were trying to throw out ideas at us. And then it dawned on you specifically that we couldn't move ahead with any other program until these people had water. And I remember visiting you in 2005 while you were in Peace Corps in Zambia and seeing the horrendousness of the water. And we were the lucky ones because we had the Peace Corps filter. And we put it over the fire first, the water, and then we put it through the filter system. But if you didn't have that, then you had all the parasites that came with the water as an African.
You cried when I took you to that water hole because it was
Yes, I did.
October. It was
Yes,
October and
it
I
was.
warned you and I said, "Mom, this is bad. Like, this is real bad. I'll take you there. You'll see." We go there, there's a line. All the women with their chitinges, they're all waiting in line. They let us go to the front of the line. I
Yep.
can't, it's hard to tell the story without getting teary. And we sat there with the little dish, and
Yes.
it was mud water, and I remember pouring it into the container and seeing it's like a yellow container, seeing the brown at the bottom. And then you
Yes.
have to wait while the earth replenishes the water back. And
We
you were
waited
just,
and waited for water because it
and
was
that was,
spring.
yeah.
Even though it was October 2005, it was springtime, and we had to wait for the water to seep back in. And there were all the flies, the feces, everything in that water.
So our village, it's weird to me when I look back on it because Peace Corps put me in a village without any water. And if I was working for Peace Corps, I don't know that I would let that happen, but I value that more than I have words for now, because that was a part of my Africa that has never been a part of my daughter's. Because the first water well that was funded for SSAAP was in our village. A lady from a mission in the town nearest to our village, who's from Texas, she said, "Heather, can I help fundraise for one water well?" And I said, "Yes, and I know where you're putting it." Mm-hmm. So the first water well for SSAAP was for my village. And my daughter and all of her friends, her generation, my daughter is 13, all that generation, they don't know what the village is like without water. They don't have any idea. And I'm so happy that I had that experience, because I remember even the way that you bath with filthy water. There's a certain way you do it. You don't clean like when I'm bathing with clean water, I clean my nostrils, I clean my ears, I clean the crud out of my eyes. And when you have filthy water, you ignore those zones because you don't want fecal water in your eyes or your ears or anywhere near your mouth. And then the water, filtered water that Gail is speaking about, British Beckefeld filter from England, great little machines with ceramic filters. That water was very precious, and then you could put that in a bottle, brush your teeth with it. I used to wash my face with it, but then you don't drink enough, you end up dehydrated because you're conserving that water, you're conserving it. So I mean, all of these things really conglomerated to me seeing the bigger picture. I didn't ever intend to work with water. I wanted to work with crafts, women, basket weaving, art, dancing, drumming, music. I wanted to work with like projects like beekeeping and making honey, and just like all of these beautiful things with growing vegetables and having a market and selling them. And I wanted to do all this stuff that I still feel like I haven't really gotten to do. Why? Because you can't do anything without water. And the best way that I can explain what water means to me is that you cannot appreciate it unless you haven't had it. Like, how do you wash, various orifices of your body that you don't want contaminated? You can't avoid those areas. Extra soap. And then, I mean, there's just all these little things that I shouldn't go into detail about right now, but like you learn, and that's how I understood how these people live. It's like you just try to survive. You don't enjoy the bath. You don't lay in it. You don't light candles. You don't put bubbles. You don't read your journal. You just get the bath over with. And if you have to drink, like you ate something too salty, and you have to drink, you just get it over with, and then you just know that you'll get diarrhea. The dirty water is a slow death sentence. We don't have eye doctors here. I have one, Dr. Watson in Lusaka. There's no, like, we don't really have medical care to even know why these children die, or a little infant dies, or a 20-year-old boy dies, or a 35-year-old woman. We don't know. I believe that everything goes back to this filthy water. Everything. Because you're cooking with it, you're cleaning with it, you don't have a chance at good health. And diarrhea is the leading cause of death in Africa. And my daughter, when she was little, the kids in the village, they like, the way that they play together is like they do all their chores together. So they wash the dishes together, and then they go chase after the goats together, and then they bath together, and they go to the toilet together, and they all like defecate together and hang out. And she, like, Radiance, my daughter, was like my little spy, because I couldn't, I never had that kind of insight into the village the way that she does, because the kids like took her in as one of them. And she would tell me, like, Mom, like, all of these kids have diarrhea. Like, I'm the one with a hard stool. And I mean, it's just like these little things that you just, I wouldn't have known that, because the people love me or not, but they they have distance from me in a way that she has a different intimacy with them, because she's half African and because she's grown up there. And she would tell me stories, like when they bathed, sometimes they would use like soap that you would like lather on your body. They use it as toothpaste because they don't have toothpaste. And just different things. Like, we knew when we always know when people are starving, and the best way, because they'll never tell you, they'll never tell you, they don't want your pity, and they pretend like it's fine. The way to tell when people are starving is their sleep habits. So they'll go to bed around like 6 o'clock at night, let's say 7. The sun is dwindling in the sky, they go to bed, and then they'll get up really late. Like, for them, they usually get up at like 5 or 6. They'll sleep until like 8. And you realize, why are they doing this? Well, they're exhausted because they've eaten a meal or less in the day, but also because the more you sleep, the less you have to be awake for the suffering of the hunger, because it hurts. Like, it hurts when you're hungry constantly. And then your brain can't function fully because all you're thinking about is food. I feel fortunate to have had some of these really, really painful experiences so that I have that drive. I still have it. I have this drive after 20 years to keep on going despite all these tremendous obstacles. A level of patience that I never thought possible. I've had to exhibit. I've had to learn how to have. All of these difficulties, all of these things that weren't even anything that I could have accounted for. I'm still driven to do it because of the stories that I've just shared with you. Because every time you help one village with water, you get one good night of sleep. You feel good. And then the next morning, there's about 100 people at your door. And you realize, oh, okay, I never really will get to rest, because now I need to help all these other people, right? And that's just in my chiefdom. So we've expanded our project to help in multiple chiefdoms. But Zambia is a very large country. It's like the size of Texas. And you know, we have been working in Simwatachella chiefdom for 20 years, and we thought it would be a wonderful initiative to help in other chiefdoms and sort of spread the project. So we're working in southern province of Zambia, and there's, I think, 8 provinces in Zambia. And then if you extend it even more, it's like, how many countries are there in Southern Africa? How many villages? I mean, it's just phenomenal. And I always wish that there were more people here that were helping us. Like, for example, tomorrow we have to go up to our house that we've had for 20 years, clean it. We've got a bunch of workmen going up there because we're putting like a security wall around the parameter of our compound. We've had a lot of thefting issues and just stuff over the years that needs to end. And I was telling my daughter, I wish that there were either like a third person here, or that you were a little bit older, because what I would do is I would leave you behind. I would go up to that village myself. There's like one of our little houses, one of our guest houses, there's like so much mouse dung on the ground that I thought, like, is the cement black? It's just disgusting. A kitten died in one of the houses. I need to go clean that up. But we have 2 sites, and I want to go to the other site and get that one, get like moved in there. And then we have a visitor coming in November, and I want her to see both of the sites and see all the work we've been doing. And so, you know, I always wish that there were more people here to help. But I also realized that that might not happen. And so, you know, I'll just do my best. I'll do my best with whatever I have, you know. And I always feel like I can't do my best if I'm always looking at the loss. Like, oh, I wish there were more people, and oh, there's only me doing this, and when Radiance goes to college, I'll be alone again. And, you know, rather than looking at like a deficit, let me look at a surplus. And so the surplus is I've got an amazing water well driller, a Zimbabwean guy that I love. I've got you know, a passion for my project that I don't even think I had 20 years ago. I think 20 years ago, I was a really like unexposed girl. And I think that I have the same dream that I did when I was 23. And, you know, now I'm almost 44. And I have the same dream and the same drive, but it's infused with something entirely different now. It's not at all like this romantic vision of Africa, or you know, it's like it's a different version of truth. And it might not be as romantic, and it might not be as beautiful, but it's so much deeper, you know, because now it's my soul. You know, before it was like, well, I'll join Peace Corps, you know, and now it's like, it's different. Why Africans are settling for less than what they deserve, why they are suffering like this, why they aren't taking their own initiative for their water, why they are living at a level less than so much of the rest of the world. And why, you know, why? I think the whole world has done a wonderful job of giving these people an inferiority complex, whether through the colonialization. You know, one chunk of Africa was colonialized by Europe and the United States. And then another chunk of Africa was colonized by the Arabs in the Middle East. And, that's the eastern side. That's the whole Tanzania, the whole Indian Ocean side. And like that certain behaviors over hundreds and hundreds of years, it's ancestral. It becomes part of people's DNA. And abuse, when it is not severed, it just keeps reproducing. And, what I'm always trying to point out to people is like poverty is not about money. Like, look at all of the ways that you have wealth. You have children. You have many children. I have one, you have 10. I know it's too many for you to take care of, and I know that you're resentful, and I know that you're overburdened, and I'm not ignoring that, but you have the abundance of family, and you have the abundance of your children, and you have the abundance of health. There are so many people in the West that cannot survive without pills and constant medical care, and they're dependent on these systems to keep them alive. And here, there's a certain beauty in none of that healthcare being available, and you're either alive if you're healthy or you're dead if you're not. There's a certain beauty in that. There's a certain beauty in living with nature that we don't have in the West. Like, we're so completely removed unless we go to the national parks or we carve out time to go to a sacred place. We're not living with nature in the same way that these people do, and their lives are incredibly abundant, and they don't see it. They can't see it because the whole world has revolved around this capitalistic, imperialistic system that we're taught to see that abundance is only in the form of money. Abundance is only in the form of a big house or multiple vehicles or all of these material things. And then they're buying into that system, and they're degrading themselves because they can't ever compete with it. It's a system that needs literacy. It's a system that needs books and PhDs and money. And that's not their system. They don't. My driller and I had a meeting today, and I said to him, do you please need to write any of this stuff down? I write him notes. He loses them. He doesn't. And today he said, Heather, I have so many notes from you. I just have it all up here. And I was like, okay, you're right. Because if I don't write something down, guaranteed I forget. So at all times, I cut up cardboard boxes and use them to write notes to myself at all times. And they don't do that. It's not a literacy-based culture, but they're always trying to follow in our footsteps and do things in our Western way. And it's ingrained because the colonialists came and said, follow our way, follow our religions, follow our way. And I'm writing my newsletter, and in it, there's this gorgeous African woman, and she's like all decked out in cowrie shells, and her hair is shaved, and she's got this like gorgeous lapa dress and makeup and like blue lipstick. And I have a picture of her with radiance. And I said to her, can I take your photo? We met her in an airport. And she was like, oh my God, your daughter is so beautiful. And I was like, you are so beautiful. And thank you for not selling your soul to the West, because that's Africa's responsibility. The systems that we have in the West apply to the West. Like, for example, this idea of the internet. There's this old BlackBerry. Look at this thing. I love this thing. The battery lives for 2-3 days because I don't have electricity all the time. These iPhones, you have to charge them multiple times in the day. They're not integrated like the technology in the West. It doesn't integrate here. It can't integrate in a society where I think Zambia, we have like 20 million people. I think I could be wrong. Sierra Leone, we have about 12 million. And what, even 1 million of Sierra Leonean people have access to, a vehicle. I mean, I think that's a stretch to say that 1 million of the 12 million have vehicles. We can't apply Western conditions into this culture. We cannot cut and paste the West into this culture. And the more that Africans try to do it, the more they are suffering in poverty. And it's because they can't take the wealth of the resources that we have here innately. And one of those resources is them. They are incredibly strong, incredibly adaptable, resilient people. And until they have that self-realization of their worth, they're going to continue in the poverty. Because if you're always comparing yourself to something and something you'll never be, then you're always falling short. And I think we have that problem in the West, though we haven't really admitted it to ourselves, that we also have, inferiority complexes. And I think that's what a lot of the racial tension is too, is just because, the inherent strength of an African, they glow, they're alive, they're charged with nature 24/7. And I think we suffer from that in our own culture, that we're not connected to nature, we're not connected to that source energy the way that we should be, because it's very healing. My own little distinct corner of needing personal space where they don't need it, needing alone time that they don't need, needing, I mean, there's parts of me that are always going to be, my Western way, because that's my upbringing and my childhood and my formative years. And those are parts of me that I realize over this long period that I've been here that will never change. I'm always in awe of, like, people get up at 5:30 or 6 in the morning and they're together all day with each other. And that would drive me absolutely crazy. Like, I want to be with myself or my daughter all day, but maybe like have interactions with people like in and out of the day, but like I want to be with myself all day. I want to be alone. And I've always been like that. I'm an introvert. I need a lot of alone time. What is always with me is my within and nature. It doesn't matter where I am. I'm always with me, and I always have nature, because nature is something that is, you can have it everywhere you go in the world. And it always is with you. And that is such a powerhouse. Nature is a powerhouse of finding our deeper self. I don't know what you want to call it, our deeper purpose. It's a place of, like, being with nature is just like, it's being with clarity. And it makes, what I've noticed is, like, if you go to a national park, you walk past people, they'll smile. They don't like ignore you, pretend you're not there. It's like everybody's happy. I've noticed that every time I go to Victoria Falls on the border of Zimbabwe and Zambia, like, everybody, especially during the rainy season when you can't even walk through it without getting soaked by the waterfall, everybody's laughing, smiling. People are nice to each other. And that's another little theory I have, is that the world, the more chaotic humanity gets, the farther we're getting from nature. Because when we're connected to nature, we don't fight with each other. we're at peace with each other because we're at peace with ourselves. So getting back, because I'm sorry, I've gotten off topic a lot of this time. Water, 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 water. It's a constant. It's something that, how can I say? We can't, again, we can't appreciate it unless we don't have it. Your hot water heater breaks. They have to shut your whole water system down at your house. Just before they do it, maybe you put a bunch of water in the bathtub or something, right? And then you're like, oh crap, can I drink that? Like, that's kind of nasty because I like lay in there for hours. Did I clean the bathtub? Oh wait, I did. There's like cleaning products, so now I'm going to drink that. You really start, I mean, you could even do this as an experiment. Like, when I'm like giving presentations to children in America, I always say, like, do this for a day. Don't touch water. Don't drink it. Don't bath. And see how you feel by about 5 o'clock at night. Like, just do it for a day. Another one, do it for a day. Don't eat. Just don't eat and go to bed hungry. And then wake up in the morning and know that you don't get to eat until like 3 or 4 in the afternoon the next day. How do you feel? How do you treat other people? How do you feel about yourself? Like, if you don't bath, or if you bath with nasty water that's been sitting in the bathtub for 24 hours and it's filthy. I guess that's like the closest thing that we would have in the States to like dirty water or water from the garden. I don't know, like, but just like filthy water, and like how you feel when that's how you clean yourself, and what that does to your psychology. And all of this work that I'm doing with water, it's about the water, but there's another level. And that other level is these people's dignity. Why should they be living like that? Why should parts of the world have all of this over resource, and then there's this whole huge chunk of humanity that's just completely lacking? And whether or not they should take responsibility for that, or the West should take responsibility for that because of years of mistreatment or whatever it is, we should stop all that and just move ahead. And to me, the only way to move ahead is not to forget about the past, because the past is relevant, but the history is a teaching tool. But to remain in it and remain stuck in that anger and the darkness and all of the trauma isn't productive. Like, let's get out of that. Let's move ahead. Let's get this water. Let's do it. Let's crank the water wells out, So I'm like on full charge now. And I went to Sierra Leone and I had these 67 water wells. And I was like so excited to implement all of these. And some of these donations had been coming since 2020. And this was 2022, 2023. I don't like to sit on people's money for that long. I got to get it out, because it feels like it doesn't feel right when it's been stale too long. And I'm so excited to have all these wells. And then I realize, okay, the really challenging part of my work isn't even the fundraising to get the money for the wells. It's dealing with the middlemen in the culture that I need, the engineers, the geologists I've got in Zambia, the construction guys who are the ones that I need to hire to help me with the wells, because the village people don't know well construction. They don't know how to do a well. If it's a matter of digging, they can dig, but they need supervision. They need materials. These guys in Sierra Leone, they're hauled down. They dig, and then they start hauling them down. They tie them to it's like a pulley and a rope, and a couple guys like hold the rope while they like help the guy go down, and then it's like they have a safety on him in case he hits a water vein and the water starts coming into the well, they can quickly crank him back up. I'm not using very scientific terms, but there's an art to this. And the people in the village that need the water, they can't just dig a hole. You know, obviously they've tried. It doesn't work that way. So I need expertise. I need people who are engineers, people who have done this experiential, hands-on field work. And that's where I get stuck, because the guy that I hired in Sierra Leone, he did like, 39 of the 60 wells. And then he's not going to do the rest because he chewed the rest of the money. And then I have to take him to the Anti-Corruption Commission. And all of that is the where my expertise has to come in. And there's no manual for this. There's no I can't go online and figure out how to deal with my problems. I mean, how do you help people in a lawless state? Can you help the legislation enforce their own laws? Because the people here starve about, let me say, 75% more. Sierra Leoneans do not have the same starvation issues because they have basically water all the time. Sierra Leone is the wettest country in all of West Africa. They can grow anything. They don't have enough food. They should have much more food than they do, but they don't suffer from chronic starvation. Yes, it's just climatic. It's like, this is a very arid zone. We get, and we're suffering from deforestation. So one of the things that I want to do when we get this new site set up is a large scale tree planting project. I want local people to bring local tree cuttings. They plant them. They're going to get lunch. That is the incentive in Africa, is food. They come here, they work, they get food. But I want to make a big fat forest that, like, from an airplane, you would look down and all you see is brown. And then it's like, oh, what is that green? I want trees that will help bring rain. There's just people cut down these trees to make charcoal. And the deforestation problem in the southern province of Zambia is unbelievably bad. So, that there's a whole part of it too, with, like, when we're talking about water, permaculture. And that's something that I think over time, like maybe when I get old, it'll be something that, like, my daughter's generation is like very well versed in this idea of permaculture, which is like how you can harvest water and get it back, how you can deplete, like, you're depleting the aquifer, right? You're using water, depleting the aquifer. How do you get water back into the aquifer? How do you get rainwater? How do you harvest rainwater so that when it's raining, it's not just running off? How do you get it back into the ground, into the aquifers? How do we keep recharging the aquifers of the earth? And I think that this is like a concept that I don't know much about. It's so much drier than it used to be. The rainfall in Zambia, in the southern province, we're getting less rain, a longer dry season. And my driller was saying that when he's about 58, I think he's 55 or 58 years old, that when he was a boy, they used to hand dig their water wells 10 to 15 meters deep just like we do in Sierra Leone,
Mhm.
because a man-made hand-dug water well, you should not ever try anything deeper than 15 meters because it's just dangerous for the people digging. So, okay, so that was when he was a little boy. Let's say he's 55, 58. When he first started drilling wells, he said that they would drill them about 30, 35, maybe 40 meters deep and get their water. Excuse me. Now we're drilling wells in the same areas, 65, 70, 75 meters deep. We're draining these aquifers. I never understood that level of emergency until he started sharing with me that just in his short lifetime, he's not even 60 years old, that as a young boy, the water was so superficial that they could just dig for it like we do in Sierra Leone. Then as he got older, he's a young man, maybe he was 30, 35 years old, he started doing the drilling with the drill rig, 35-meter holes. Big part of the starvation, I don't know that they were necessarily having this level of discomfort with not enough food, even say 50 years ago. The lack of sustainable water sources. This part of Zambia, especially in the southern province, we have a lot of animal life, and not so much in my village, though. I'm told like years ago there were elephants in my village, Crystal. But like years ago, even now we have like monkeys and things like that. But if you go south and you get near the Zambezi, where we have all the wildlife, we have the hippos. Sometimes you're driving to Victoria Falls, like at night, they say like don't walk, and like the headlights will shine and there's like hippos on the side of the road, and giraffes and elephants, and zebras, and all this beautiful wildlife. Well, some of the villages around the Zambezi, they don't have a water well. And I'm very specifically thinking to target these particular areas, at least maybe in the future, where the kids will go like down to the river to bath. And if they had a water source, they wouldn't do that. And the reason that I'm advocating that they don't do that in this particular river is because the Zambezi is infested with crocodiles. So it's it's not really safe. And apparently, like a few days ago, there was like a boy in the 10th grade, grade 10, and he was bathing in the river, and a big croc came, and it like came and chomped his leg. Okay, I think it got his leg, and he started screaming, and there were other children there. People from the village came out. They started like, get away, like trying to hit this croc. And I don't know the details of why nobody came to pick the boy up, because he couldn't really move because he'd lost his leg. And the croc kind of receded, and then it came back again and just apparently dove in and got his whole torso. So he was like, I mean, I can't, to be honest, I can't even really think about it. I can't really believe it. And then it got the rest of him, and it just like dove back into the water, and all of these people were screaming. And you think about it, and something as simple as a water well, this could have been avoided. But the river flowing through Botswana, it flows through Zimbabwe, it's infested with crocodiles. Crocs are incredibly intelligent. They will study human behavior for months, they'll watch who's going to the river, the size, they'll study. And then when they go for it, they'll usually make their kill because they've been studying it for so long. I'm bringing this up because I was, this Zambian guy that I was dating, I was making an argument that crocodiles were stupid. And he looked at me and he was like, "Are you crazy, Heather?" And I was like, "No, their brain is like the size of an egg." And he was like, "No, no, no. Like crocodiles study people. They don't go for the big, tall, fat guy. They go for the kid. And they go for a certain size of a child because it's got to be worth it, right? Like if you're starving, you're not going to buy a mini pizza, you get the big one." So anyhow, I know that sounds irrelevant, but it isn't. Like the more of these water wells that we can provide, the more that they help in diversified situations. And I have no idea why, with all of the NGOs, all of the foreign aid in the town of Livingston, why on earth this village that is not too far from that town, there would be people bathing in that river and the crocs would be coming up and hunting their children. And it just goes to show you, like, the way that resources are not shared equidistantly or shared, they're not. And so that's a very heavy aim of my project, is to go into isolated remote areas where nobody's helping, nobody cares, it's too difficult, they're not interested, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of it. Let me go do it. So I just need a long life, an infinite well of patience, and I guess a better sense of humor to deal with all this. But these are what I need, and I'm going to just keep doing this because I thoroughly believe that it's necessary. In the more urban parts of Africa, we have a problem with they have laws that no one is following, that a borehole, we call it jiguju, the jiguju can only be they have to be at least like 500 meters from the next one, and people don't care. These are like wealthy people in the urban.
So that a boy in grade 10 would be destroyed by a crocodile because they have no choice but to bath in the Zambezi, where it's loaded with crocodiles. That's where you left off before, Crystal.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that horror. Because yeah. What I have deduced is that if there is a way, I think, like with Mother Earth, the goal is like she's giving and then we have to give. And the idea that she's giving to us and we take, but we don't give back. And even if what we're giving back to Mother Earth is a consciousness of her, or a consciousness of the gift of this life that we have because of her, that is giving back. But maybe in a tangible way of this permaculture is a way of giving back, because what it is it's saying, we're going to tap the aquifer, we're going to get well water, we're going to get water, however they do the pipe systems in the States with the running water, or whatever it is. We're going to take this water, but we're going to give back in a different way. And until we can do that, I think our water problems will just continue to get worse. And I'm a huge advocate for another unpopular idea. I'm full of these ideas that nobody likes. But if we could all have water that wasn't in taps, I know that we wouldn't waste it. I know that without a shadow of a doubt, because water is so heavy. If we had to, even if your well is outside and you have to put it in like a tub, and then you go heat the water, you still have to carry the tub. It's a great workout, spend less time at the gym, spend no money at the gym, and carry your water. And if we all did that, we would waste such a significant amount less. I'm speaking from my own experience because all I do is waste water when it runs. I take these like nasty, lavish baths. I like fall asleep in the bath. I know it's like a taboo to even admit that, but like I like draw a bath to go I draw a bath to go to bed. Especially in hotel rooms when like you've already paid for the room. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna go waste a bunch of water. I'm just like, I can only speak about things that I'm guilty of, right? So that's been the hardest part of Africa for me, is like eating food I don't like and not getting to lay in a bathtub. Having a little bucket, like I don't know if you can see, well, it's got water in it right now so we can brush our teeth. Do you guys see this bucket?
Yes.
This is what Radiance and I share a bath in every night while we've been staying at our driller's house. And she's like 5'3", I'm 5'4". We're both about the same weight, and like that's our bath, and it's great. I mean, we fight sometimes. She uses more than her share of half, but she's like laughing in the background, but she does. But like if we had that ability to stop with the running water, I really think it would, I think it might come to that, like, because you have to have a certain amount of water for it to even run. If everybody has like 2 to 4 bathrooms in their house, like let's say 2 to 4 toilets in their house, and you urinate, and I hate it if like somebody doesn't flush the toilet, you go to use it and there's urine and it's nasty. But what I'm saying is, if every time you flush, like how much water, like the idea of plumbing disturbs me. It disturbs me because at the end of the day, if you use a latrine and or like a pit latrine, and there was a way to even use organic waste, it's not bad to have what you need. Like everybody having access, not access, access, like ACCESS, everybody having that has caught up. It's caught up over time, so that now no one's going to have anything. So we have to reorganize and reprioritize. And we can't look at it as a setback. Like, and I think that again, it's like a raising of consciousness. 73% of the planet is water, but yet we don't have enough water. Do you find that ironic? And given it's salt water, given it's the wrong, it's not the correct, it's not, we can't drink salinated water, right? But that aside, if you look at all of the rivers in the world, the ocean itself, all of the seas of the world, you combine them and it makes up, it's something between 64 to 73%. Why are we running out of water? And I don't think it's even a tangible thing. We would love participation in any way, shape, or form with this project. Our project is called Simwatachela, SIMWATACHELA, Sustainable Agricultural and Arts Program. SSAAP on the website or on the internet. It's the website is called www.ssaap.org. And if you have ideas, feedback, would like to help, would like to work with water wells, would like to come here and help me, would like to sponsor any part of a water well, anything to do with this project, I would very, very, very much like to hear from you. Send me an email, send me a text message, send me a message in a bottle, and I'll be happy.